The days when you had to spend multiple large bills to get a top quality paddle are over. The sport of pickleball has been expanding rapidly, and with it has come a rapid expansion in paddle selection. I've narrowed this selection to what I believe to be the 5 very best paddles that you can get for $100 or less. And I'm thankful to say it was a hard list to whittle down. Of course, this list was built upon price and playability, but other factors I took into account were return policies, warranty policies, brand reliability, and any other special features that made these paddles stand out. I've chosen to include paddles on the list that are either listed under $100 or met the threshold by use of easily accessible discount codes. I can pretty confidently say none of the paddles on this list are classified as intermediate paddles. They're all top performing paddles. So without any more delay, here's my list of the top 5 paddles $100 or less. Starting our list at number 5 is the paddle with easily the best dollar per thermoform paddle price option with a really generous test drive period, Friday Pickleball Paddles. I actually did a pretty extensive review of these guys and their paddles, and they seem pretty legit. Their paddles are thermoformed in carbon fiber, which produced RPMs in the high spin range and garnered a spin rating of an A from me, along with a rating of A- for power, B+ for control, and B+ for pop. On the spectrum of soft to stiff feeling paddles, they lean more on the stiff side, and they have some great designs if you like color. If you use the links provided in the description below, you can get 2 of these paddles for $95, or use the link for 1 for 10% off. I was also able to verify that with their 99-day happiness guarantee, you can indeed play with the paddle for that long and send it back if you don't like it, and they'll refund the full cost of the paddle. Aside from just general paddle preference, they don't have a lightweight option in these paddles. They have a weight range of 8 to 8.3 ounces with an average of 8.3 ounces, so if you're a person who likes lighter weight paddles, they don't offer those in these, and that might be a deterring factor for you. Coming in the number 4 position is Rev Pickleball's Aria Pro. The Rev Aria Pro lists online for $120, and with the PBMED discount code, it brings the total to right around $95, which puts it under that $100 threshold. The Aria Pro had an easy adjustment period and became a paddle I was very comfortable playing with. It might be one of the most well-balanced paddles that I've played with today in terms of playability. I found that it was an all-around good paddle that leaned a little bit into power and spin. Rev Pickleball gives you 30 days to make sure you like this paddle, and they have this paddle covered for 6 months under warranty. While the Friday paddles are probably the best value for dollar on this list, the Aria Pro got the nod from me by a narrow margin because I found the paddle face to be just a little bit less stiff feeling, which might vary from personal preference, person to person. The Aria Pro does have a little bit of a lower average weight as well, which might be helpful if you don't like paddles that are more on the moderate side of weight. The swing weight of the Aria Pro was 125, which is roughly the same as an Engage Pursuit Pro MX or a Carbon 1X, so if you need a paddle with a low swing weight, keep in mind you can expect the Aria Pro to feel like most other elongated paddles in the industry. Coming in at the number 3 spot is the Vatic Prism series, with my preference being the 16mm Vatic Prism Flash. I consider the Prism series true control paddles. You can probably hit dinks and drops with these things all day long and end up finding some of the highest success rates that you've had. The Prism series starts under $100, and discount codes make that even better. Vatic Pro also has a 30-day return policy and offers a 90-day warranty. At this point, Vatic Pro is a brand that's pretty well established, and I feel like you can trust. The Prism series has great control and good spin, and they have a decently soft feel to the paddle when you hit the ball. But the Prism series is more in control. They're not thermoformed. They're good control paddles. They have great spin. But if there's a downside, I would say people who want power paddles should look elsewhere. Joining our list in the number 2 position is Aiso Pickleball's Aiso Centric. This ended up being my absolute favorite thermoform control paddle, regardless of price. It was tough for me to put the Aiso Centric at number 2 on this list because it's been one of my favorite paddles to date and has some of my most favorite playability attributes. The Aiso Centric performed at a really high level of control and a great level of spin. But the thing that really stood out to me about the Aiso Centric was it had a really satisfying feel. It was soft and flush, but had that trampoline effect that most people are probably looking for when they look at thermoform paddles. In fact, the feel of the Aiso Centric may be my favorite feeling paddle of the paddles that I've played with, and the paddle just looks cool. Like the Prism Flash, the Aiso Centric meets our $100 threshold at list price, which can be further enhanced by the channel's discount code. Unlike its predecessors, the Aiso Centric offers a 30-day return policy with a 90-day warranty. I think most people would probably enjoy what the Aiso Centric has to offer and appreciate good control and spin with that nice trampoline effect and a really good feel. I best characterize the Aiso Centric as a control paddle with thermoformed features. As you might expect, it does have a little bit more power relative to the Vatic Prism series, with the main difference, however, being that increased dwell time and that sort of grab and throw type effect that comes from the build construction of a plush feeling 16mm thermoform paddle. Part of what makes this a good control paddle, however, is the fact that it doesn't have an ultra high level of pop. So if you're looking for a paddle that plays hot off the face or an overt power paddle, the Aiso Centric is probably not that paddle. Before we reveal our number one paddle, I'll highlight a couple honorable mentions I think are worthy of bringing up. Our first honorable mention is the Rhombus R1.16. This is a nice carbon fiber paddle with good control and good spin, and I really don't have any complaints about it. In relation to the other control paddles on this list, it plays pretty comparable to the Vatic Prism series, with the Vatic Prism series having a slightly better price point. It's also beat by the Aiso Centric on price, and I like the feel of the Centric a bit better. This paddle has a list price of $120 and meets the price criteria for this list through the use of the discount code that our friends at Pickleball Studio have loaned to us in the event that you'd like to explore playing with this Rhombus paddle. The second honorable mention is the Professor PhD paddle. This carbon fiber paddle is made by a newer pickleball company. I found it to be a good control paddle and it demonstrated high RPM measurements. This paddle met the market with a really competitive price that matched that of the Vatic Prism and the Aiso Centric. And comparing it to the other control paddles that did make this list, I again preferred the feel of the Aiso Centric, and the Vatic Prism series has a slightly better return policy and has the luxury of coming from a company that's already had the time to prove itself to be a steady go-to paddle company. After we talk about our final paddle, I'll put up a list of stats for each of those paddles that we talked about today, and if you liked our review, don't forget to subscribe. This leads us to our last paddle and number one on the list for paddles under $100, the Neonic Force. The Neonic Force is a thermoformed carbon fiber paddle that I loved playing with. It played with pretty impressive spin, which had RPM measurements coming back at 1940, which is definitely in our high spin range. My swing weight measurements came back at 117 and twist weight came back at 6.45. This correlates to a pretty stable paddle and a swing weight that's surprisingly low for a paddle that's elongated and 16mm. The last long 60mm paddle I measured with the swing weight that low was the Ethos RT, which had a completely different shape and was designed specifically for maneuverability. This probably contributed to our high RPM rate by allowing the paddle to be swung fast and maintaining good maneuverability. My favorite playability factor, however, was the paddle's pop. The paddle construction consists of Toray T700 carbon fiber that incorporates a layer of fiberglass to generate extra pop without contributing significantly to the swing weight. I love playing with a paddle that's got good pop, and when I say good, I don't mean too much. On the spectrum of no pop to Legacy Pro pop, I'd put the Neonic Force right here. Speaking of the Legacy Pro, a paddle which I enjoy quite a bit, I couldn't help but notice some comparable design and playability attributes between the Legacy Pro and the Neonic Force. These paddles have an essentially identical shape, shared with a couple other paddles like Vatic Pro's V7, and both the Legacy and the Neonic share a feel that splits the difference between the softer carbon fiber paddles and the more stiff-feeling thermoform paddles like the Mach 1 Forza or the Common 1X, and have pretty good sweet spots. A high level of spin and pop make the Legacy ultra fun to play with, especially on speed-ups and hands paddles. But in high-intensity situations, I found it a little hard to control, and I had my fair share of pop-ups. I feel like Neonic has found that perfect dial-in spot to where the pop is helpful, but not harmful. With a high level of spin and a nice pop that's less explosive, the Neonic Force gives me the impression of what a slightly dialed-down version of the Legacy Pro might feel like, and was probably closer to what I needed the original Legacy Pro to feel like when I was playing with it. When talking about its playability aspects, most comparable paddles far exceed Neonic's price point, and a person may be tempted to forget this paddle sells for less than $100. It has a $99 list price, which is reduced 10% further by using the PBMED discount code or ordering through the link in the description. And like some of its previous counterparts, Neonic offers the market a 30-day return policy, and though at this point I haven't personally heard of these issues happening, they have a 90-day warranty that specifically mentions covering dreaded thermoform problems of core crushing or delamination. The handle appears to be good, quality construction, and my only personal complaint about this paddle is that at 5.3 inches, if you're a player that uses two-handed backhands, your hands will likely have to overlap a little bit. And there you have it. That's my list of my top 5 paddles under $100. Now, obviously I haven't played with every paddle that meets that dollar threshold, so if you can think of paddles that you think that we should try or that I should review, let us know in the comments and we'll see what we can do. But I hope that this review was helpful. Let me know what you think and hope you enjoyed.